The Business of Agriculture is brought to you by Land Trust. Have you heard how landowners are increasing profitability by adding recreation to their portfolio of land use? Millions of outdoor recreators seek wide-open spaces for birdwatching, photography, hunting, fishing, horseback riding, and many other farm and ranch activities. Landowners are partnering with the Recreation Access Network, Land Trust. Land Trust is an online platform connecting recreators with landowners for outdoor experiences on their land to increase profitability. Visit landtrust.com/BOA, as in Business of Agriculture, to learn more. That's landtrust.com/BOA.
Greetings and welcome to the Business of Agriculture podcast. It's me, your host, Damian Mason, but you already knew that because it said so in the introduction. I got a fantastic show for you today, a returning guest. His name is Jason Mauck. If you keep up on social media, he's really out there, cutting edge, doing some cool stuff. Some people think he's crazy. Some people think he's a savant. I think he's somewhere in between. I like the guy. He's only an hour from my farm in Indiana, which is why it's easy to have him on. Also, there's a great reason to always have him on the Business of Agriculture because he's always doing something different. It's not just the same old thing about, well, it's what Granddad did. I'm going to go out and do it the same way. Hell, he doesn't do things the same from like August to May, let alone how Grandpa did it. So anyway, we're talking about creating your own ag economy. That's really what we're talking about here today with his latest venture. We're going to get into that. By the way, welcome to the show, Jason.
Thanks for having me, Damon.
And Damian, yes, and thank you for having me. Yeah, well, you've got a problem. He's a little bit ADHD. He actually makes me look calm, this guy. So if he gets my name wrong, it's just because his mind's going 9 different directions all at the same time. Reminder, dear listener, that the Business of Agriculture podcast is available as an audio wherever you get your audio podcasts, iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, but also it's a video. So please do go to YouTube. And if you want to see what we're talking about, we're going to be holding up a graphic here later on, a rendering of what this latest venture is going to look like. And so you might want to see that. So go to YouTube. It's just the Damian Mason channel, DAMIAN, Damian Mason channel, and just hit like and then also subscribe, and you'll be subscribed to my YouTube channel. This episode is brought to you by Land Trust, as you already heard. It's also brought to you by my friends at Extreme Ag. Extreme Ag, that's XTREME, extremeag.farm, cutting edge, big yield-minded, forward-thinking farmers from all around the country created this thing, and they are trialing new products and doing new experimental things on corn, soybean, rice production that you can learn from. So check out the work I'm doing with them to create new content you can learn from. But in the meantime, stay tuned right here. Jason Mauck, creating your own ag economy. When I was down here last year, we talked about you buying a meat processing facility. You're not the braggy type. You're always thinking ahead. You're always looking at new ways of doing something. Your meat processing venture you just got into last year, you're up 4 to 5 times from where you were just a year ago in terms of revenue and sales, right?
Yeah, but we had quite a bottom there with COVID.
All right. So your background real quick for somebody that doesn't know you. You were raised around this. You went away and worked in industry and then had your own business and came back to it. Quick background on Jason Mauck.
Quick background, high school, sports teams to college. One room for me at the farm. Went to Indianapolis, sold insurance. Direct sales, home improvements, started a landscape business. Dad got cancer, back to the farm, kind of take his shoes. And in the last 5 or 10 years, it's just been really 5 or 6 years kind of creating this network.
Okay, so you came back to the ranch here about when?
2011 was my first crop.
Okay, so we just finished our 11th season of you being back, and as we're recording this, November of 2021. I thought it was neat when I met you that you were all about beyond commodity production. Last time was like, these guys want to chase bushels. They want to chase bushels. You want to chase customers. You want to chase profit. And we're talking about creating your own ag economy. What's that mean to you?
It means not being a victim, honestly, to be blunt, because you really get burnt out going to the coffee shops and people China or Trump or whatever these keywords are. And if you're
supply
creating your
chain
own
today,
economy,
today it's supply chain.
supply chain.
Yeah, supply chain. I can't drink chocolate milk this morning because of supply chain. Anyway, everybody's got the supply chain. Supply chain, China, Trump. Yeah, you got it. Biden, tariffs, whatever that word is. So you looked at this whole thing and said, when you're a commodity producer, which you're good at. I mean, you guys are here. You're in some really good soils. You're, Indiana. Got some great ground, and you're from a agricultural family that grew corn and soybeans and had hog barns, commodity grade contract type hog barns, right?
Yes.
And so you said, I don't want to just be a victim. What's that mean?
Well, I mean, that all goes down to taking responsibility and creating that whole economy from the ground up. So, I'm a big math dork. I like derivatives, which is just basically what actually is relevant in pushing the needle on something. So as I got out of landscaping and I went to farming, I didn't make much sense. We were just growing one crop because, I would plant tulips the fall. They would come up. I'd have pansies and petunias, and fall you'd have cabbage and you design all these things. So I start looking at time and space, and then it's went beyond that now with the network and just it's a connection economy.
Okay, so wait a minute. First off, the idea is you're saying creating your own ag economy because you think that too many times in commodity production, there's a bunch of things you can't obviously control. You can't control your weather. And you also can't control the pricing. You can set pricing. You can do marketing. You can do risk management. You can hedge and all those kinds of things. But you still feel like maybe the biggest problem is you're a little bit beholden to forces you can't do anything about.
Right. And then it just becomes a race to the bottom,
and then it becomes
competing.
And then it always becomes in commodity production, who can be bigger and cheaper? Who can be bigger and cheaper, bigger and cheaper? Bigger, cheaper, make more, produce more, and then your margins get squeezed. That's what commodity production looks like, whether it's coal, steel, or corn, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're looking at that, and then you're saying, I want to be more in charge of my own revenues. And so tell me your thinking on that. Like you said, you came about it having run your own landscaping business. If you only had one client and you only did one thing, let's say just put in seed grass, you'd be beholden to one big client that just says, go seed grass, right?
Right.
And so
farming is just a reverse algorithm of the landscape contracting, because I could go out and get $1 million for the business. I could go out and get 1 million acres if I bid $500 an acre. And
right.
That's just what you see. So for us to really create value, we have to do packaging. And that's why I went to relay cropping. This is why I'm kind of building this vertically integration thing by looking at unit evaluation. So a little tangent with landscaping. I go out and get $1,000 account with big condos and have 20 man hours. Well, I got to have all this labor. If I build my own package, I go to the nice neighborhood. I get these really nice small yards. I make them look real nice. I charge them $80, but it only takes me 10 minutes to mow that with a guy weed eating. I package 10 of them together. Now my return on time goes up 3-4x. So that went into the relay cropping, where if I space the crops out further, I get more plant yield. I add 2 entities or 3 entities. I get aggregate and create margin. And that's what's lost, is this market equilibrium victim competing thing where we all try to go out and see how much we can get of one crop. But if we just add entities and layers to that, that's how we actually create value.
Yeah. So your big thing is looking at the farming model is clearly, like we said, it's about more bushels and hopefully lowering your costs. And that's all fine. But that doesn't work for you because you're saying, what about if I can capitalize on time more? And also, it tends to be very capital intensive. If you're going to just be a commodity roller, you're going to have a boatload of capital tied up. You're talking about doing things with less capital intensive practices, right?
Yeah. And then that's where the little tangent of connection economy goes on. How we get there is through collaboration, which is out of the mindset of competing with commodities, because the neighbor kind of turns into competition for that new land.
Yeah.
So it's a different world.
All right, so talk about collaboration. So one of your thoughts was, before you even bought Muncie Meats, was to intersperse, is that the right word? Interact? I don't know if intersperse is the right word. Interact, commingle, whatever the words you want to use. You started doing a thing where you're putting livestock into your cropping system. And I know everybody's like, oh, this is crazy. Now, we're not talking about the old days, Jason, where it was like, yeah, I spread manure on that field when the crops come off. We've been doing that for, centuries. You're talking about putting animals out there within the growing stuff. I remember seeing that one of your posts on social media. I'm like, oh, that's really interesting. What was the result? What was the inspiration?
Agronomically, it worked fantastically, our organic farm. Our problem was we planted CBD hemp, and that market kind of went kapooey. Mm-hmm. We planted popcorn. We had chickens. We got everything marketed through our kiosk. It did really well. But just seeing how that worked agronomically, how we replaced our fertilizer with manure, how we replaced mowing it with teeth, and making these natural algorithms really attracted a lot of kind of this gravity well of intellectual thought into that. And I'm wearing this shirt, Stock Cropper, if you can see. Check out Zebulus Prime on Twitter or Stock Cropper.
Okay, Stock Cropper. What's Stock Cropper doing? Why does it matter?
So stock cropping is the cross-leveraging in plants and animals. So that same thought process with packaging, now we can put the rows out to 90 or 100 inches, plant them a little bit thicker, get our fertilizer and derive that from animals. And then what actually walks off the farm is, it doesn't have to be processed. We sell that meat directly.
Okay, the animals, though, are out there in your field. That means they're eating your crops. That's the first response.
Well, where's your crops going anyway?
Well, that's true. So is that what the answer is?
Combined by a John Deere with a grain cart and back to the feed mill.
Right.
Why don't we just
bypass the machinery?
Yeah. Feed it closed loop, get an old government bin out there and put your crops in there and feed it to the animals and market that.
What's an old government bin?
3 or 4 or 5,000.
Okay. Okay. You're talking about a small grain bin. Okay. So the point you're saying is the old thing about adding value by walking the crop off the farm by putting it through livestock, but you're saying don't even do the thing of, it used to be your new idea corn picker, then it morphed into the John Deere combine. You're saying why bother with the combine and the grain cart and all the handling? Let's let them eat it right there.
Right.
What do we do though when it comes November through about May when there's nothing growing?
We take the burden off our shoulders that we have to feed the world, and we time and we use animal species that can finish out in the growing season. We use them as a tool in our tool belt and I'll work. So how long does it take for a pig to come out of the sow and it's 300 pounds?
Yeah. You're talking, what is that, about 4.5 to 5 months?
7.
Is it 7
months.
7 months? Okay.
So if we might have the sow somewhere else and we get that pig in late April, early May.
And we utilize
it's small along with the crop and the cover crops. They wait out there in September, October, everything's walking off the field. But in that same time, just like a Mexican restaurant, how long does it take you to get your chicken chimichanga?
It takes a little bit longer. The chips and salsa are out quick, though. Yes. Why do you ask this? Going back to the livestock production, go ahead.
Well, people don't see the turnover that happens in a Mexican restaurant. When you get your food in 6 minutes and you're out in 20, they turn that table 3 times. So if you put chicken out there or something like that, and you can get $500 an acre, and you can turn that 3 times, and you get $15 a chicken, that's 15 times 15. That's a lot of revenue.
Yeah.
So just imagine the amount of revenue if you create a story. With that, we're talking about $15,000 to $30,000 per acre derived in a system that cuts costs versus $1,200 an acre. And we love $1,200 an acre. That's good corn and a good price.
Oh yeah, we get real excited about that. That's 200. And that's what it's $5 corn and at 200 and some 50 bushels or something like that. So yeah, that's remarkable. So what you're trying to tell me here is we've got the ability. With your idea here is we're getting more off of each acre, utilizing chickens, pigs, whatever. This is not completely new. There's been mixed use farming for a long time. It's just that mixed use farming went away, or diversified farming operations went away through specialization. Mm-hmm. Are you going to be the leader of the comeback, or is it happening anyway, or do you think it doesn't happen, period, because most people won't do the work?
That phone that just ruined our interview a little bit should show people a lot.
Yep.
That phone has a camera, it has a calculator. It was worth $50,000 in 1987, that technology.
Yep.
So everything
and now you can buy it for $500.
Everything's cheaper, it's smaller, And we're basically going to be going back in time and then integrating technology into the stuff that we used to do with rotation. But the way this works, it's a beautiful thing. If you remember, Tracy Bird had 10 rounds with Jose Cuervo. Remember that song?
The song, yes.
You know, he got up and he started dancing after 1 or 2. Now, if you had 10, you would probably be puking at the toilet. Yeah. So that's the whole point of these systems is you have to be cognizant of the sigmoid curve and the inflection and impact on the landscape.
Explain. So wait. The sigmoid curve. Help me out here.
The sigmoid curve creates an S, and it has a very steep point. So I have a boy that's 5 and 7. You know, they're 21, 25 inches, 29. When they get about 7 to 14, they do all their growth.
Right.
Everything in nature follows that.
Okay. So you're saying that we're going through that also. Are we going through that with the return to diversified farming?
No.
Because we're not there yet.
No, but this is just the understanding of how things grow and how we manage them to get that slope curve. And that's, you know, your finance people look at stuff like that as well.
Are you thinking that this is what's going to happen with your venture?
This is just how I'm going to manage it. I don't know how it will grow. I don't really care because if I take care of the craft and get the right people in place, then we'll make a superior product. And it doesn't have to, again, carry the burden of feeding the world. We can take some of these concepts and principles, fundamentals, and put them in larger systems. So let's imagine you have an 80 that has a circular irrigation. The foundation of the stock croppers, we take solar energy, but we don't charge it. We don't store a lot of it in batteries. It makes it move right away, which amplifies this arrangement of nature. So we could do that same thing on an 80-acre field very easily. We tie it to the center pivot. The water and feed goes out to the animals. We grab all the solar energy. It goes back into the grid, and then we manage the crops with the manure just in time from the animals. The cover crop feeds the worms and microbiology. We can do all these things, but we got to figure it out on a small scale. And then we figure it out like I did last year organically with these guns, whatever is left of them. And then you integrate the technology, and then we can think big and we can create all these iterations.
All right. So you talked about a couple of things. First off, the burden of feeding the world. Now, I've been talking about this to my clients, and this is one thing that you and I both agree on. I've been hearing this since I was a kid. I'm about 10 years older than you, or 11 or 12 years older than you. And the first ag meeting I probably went to, it talked about feeding the world. American farm, feed the world. And, I should have trademarked it back then because I'd be rich now. We do feed the world. It's the most noble of all causes, and we feel good about that. We've also used it to our detriment as an excuse because everything that we do, especially when we do it in a backward-ass way or the way we've always done it, we justify it as, well, we got to go out there and feed the world. And the reality is we produce enough right now to feed the world. 1/3 of all the food that we make globally is wasted. So what you're saying is it's not that feeding the world is somehow not important. It's not that you and I are bashing on that concept. It's that we've already kind of got it. So in other words, we've got commodity production down. Now that we have that down, let's look at the next thing. And that's really what you're saying.
One of the first things you brought up is the capital intensive nature of farming. So that has led to less and less and less and less farmers. And we say we're 2%, but we're really less than 1%.
About 0.5% that actually are producing.
And why are there less and less farmers? Because it's capital intensive. And why does it capital intensive? Because you have to farm 1,000 acres to have enough volume to be able to buy the equipment.
Yep.
So what the true problem is, we haven't created a way for a person to farm 20 or 40 acres and make a good living if you're just farming corn and soybeans.
No, it's going to have to be your only way, and I talk about it in my book, Food Fear, I know you're a fan of. The only way small lot agriculture production works is if it's heavily niched, and that's what we're talking about here.
So let's say I want to grow pigs efficiently, like a Tyson model. Let's say I build a big barn, but I don't want to use, Tyson or someone like that. Well, if I go to market and I overrun my headlights, and overrunning your headlights just means you produce so much that you can't sell it locally.
Yep.
You have to wholesale it. I have to go to Tyson.
Yeah, you got to go to
and they're going to pay me some matrix that's I can't even get to because I don't have the buying power.
Yep.
Have all the sows, get all these inputs bought, hedged correctly. So there's no way I can scale this down. You look at Canada, they have this quota system. So there are smaller deals, but milk $6.
Yep.
It's not profitable. So until
No, it's profitable. It's not efficient
for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's profitable for the producer, but yeah, it's not efficient for the consumer.
So the root of our problem is that we have to find value in arrangements, and we have to find value in expression and slope curves and things like that, and adding entities and building vertical integration. So we have to have a bigger piece of the pie. As you know, I mean, you can grow 150 bushel wheat. If it's $7, I take that. How much bread is going to be made? Retail price on the shelf.
Yeah.
100,000. How
Yeah.
much part of that is the farmer?
Yeah, very little. So yeah, the point is very, very little wheat actually on a percentage basis in each loaf of bread.
But the big problem, to be honest, for our humanity is you got fossil fuels. If it takes 5 or 10 calories to process that grain down to bread, then we're losing the battle. But if we can think arrangement and have the animal walk off, then we no longer have to go through all these layers and have all these pieces of equipment, buy all these inputs to farm all these acres so it is this vicious cycle that I'm just trying to create a new way.
And I think we should make sure we tell all our friends out here in the world of agriculture that listen to the Business of Agriculture podcast, neither you nor I are against feeding the world. It's simply a new mindset, like you and I both agree on. We've got commodity production pretty well down. What's next? Meaning, what's next that we can do it in a different way that actually we're talking about bringing more profit to somebody like you.
And here's the thing. If I die, okay, so I'm my dad died, my uncle died at a very young age, so I think about death probably more than other people. But if I die, am I worried that someone's going to create stock cropper in this property like we're with perennial food crops and work the animals and stuff like that? What's going to happen when I die to the acres that I have to manage now? What are they going to do with it?
That depends on a lot of things. So what do you think is going to happen with
They're
it?
going to grow corn and soybeans.
They're going to go right back to what's simple.
I'm not worried that is not going to happen.
Yeah, the point is that, you know what, you just brought up another thing that's kind of funny, Jason, because a long time ago, since I'm somewhat in the creative business, it was, I read something, I thought that's brilliant. It said, don't worry about people stealing your brilliant ideas. If it's a brilliant idea that's new and different, you'll have to cram it down people's throats. They won't not only not steal it, they won't even accept it, right?
Right.
So yeah, what you're talking about doing is if this thing, when you go away, it'll probably become whatever's easiest, which would be, like you said, commodity production. So let me tell you, let's talk about what you're doing here. While you're getting your diagram pulled up, his drawing, I want to remind you again to check out my work over at Extreme Ag. Go to extremeag.farm. It's a great website with lots of video content, and you can see what new trials those guys are doing. Remember, they've made the mistakes, so you don't have to. So if you're an agricultural producer looking for an edge, do check out what we're doing over at Extreme Ag. Also, some of the business side of it. Speaking of business, all right, Jason Mauck, this is over here. We're sitting at his facility that he just bought, and I know this is, you can't really completely see it, but what we got here, if you happen to be watching, is an artist's rendering, like would be whenever some new concept is going to happen here. And he's got about 190 acres that's near Interstate 69 and the Highway 3032, which goes into the town of Muncie, which is where Ball State University is. And he's talking about now making this, what did you describe it as? The Agricultural Disneyland.
Yeah.
So what's going to happen? I see the picture that these guys, our listeners need to understand that you're serious about this. What happens? What's it going to be? What's going to happen here?
The biggest problem with business is we let people in our organization be the interface, and I want ag to be interfaced with the community. So we've created all these brands, we've created carbon credits, we've created all this stuff to try to add value to products. I want to add transparency and make a place where they can come out and they can see how we've created these natural algorithms with the stock croppers. We're going to have concerts. We're going to have sports fields. We're going to have all these reasons for people to come out. We're going to create a destination.
All right. So this has been done in different regards, whether it's amusement parks or now agritourism is the hot buzzword. And I will say that the one thing about agritourism, it tends to be this time of year, it's pumpkin patches and straw mazes and hay rides. And that's not really agriculture. You're going to do something different. You are going to show them what really is agriculture.
So I've heard the Fair Oaks comparison or something like that. What does Fair Oaks do?
Fair Oaks shows you we are a big producer of milk, and we're going to show you how we do it, and we're going to show you how our calves are born, and we're going to...
but it's milk.
They have hogs too, but yes.
We're going to have a lot more entities. We're going to have 100 different entities. We're going to be growing 20 different things, and we're going to be integrating the livestock with the plants, with the cover crops, with the perennial food crops, and we're going to vertically integrate those products into brands, into beers, into pies.
So your idea is there's going to be barley and hops growing over here, and you're not really going to grow enough barley and hops to produce all your beer, but you're going to show how they're grown. You're going to, in between the rows, you're going to also have some lambs grazing, and then you're going to show that we can do this, and then you're going to be selling the customer beer and lamb.
Yep, and you'll have that beer when you're listening to good music. We bought this because there's a floodplain out here, so we got 40 or 50 foot of elevation on both sides, which creates a natural algorithm. And I love music because it's expression, and that's kind of the theme here is for you to be you, because the world needs you to be you, not like your neighbor.
All right, so what your vision out here is, it's not going to be corn and soybeans, and you're going to have meat animals, and you're going to demonstrate the interspersing of meat animals amongst horticultural production. You're going to have the tourism side of it. You're going to have people out here that listen to music. You're going to tie in. And you spoke a lot about collaboration. Tell me, you can't possibly do this on your own in any sort of a timetable because you got a lot to do. Tell me about the collaborations that you see happening or that you've already got working.
So instead of just the broad what collaboration is, let's look at this where we're at doing this interview here. We're Airbnb-ing it now, but we want to have 4 Day Ray or Fountain City Brewing come here and start a brewery.
Those are breweries.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, I'm not just offering them a place to put a brewery. There's a lot of people that say, hey, put a brewery here. Now, imagine if I go to them and I say, okay, not only are you going to have a brewery here, but we're going to raise hops out here and create a story and a brand that's going to value add.
Yep.
But now you can actually serve that here at concert events. We've got a hotel right next to you that we can serve there at the bar. And we create all these dimensions of value for them to have a reason to come here. So the whole structure of this property is going to be a revenue share, hopefully 80-20, something like that, where instead of the music venue being promoted and going through all those, we give them a direct conduit of value and say, hey, if you promote the hell out of this and you get 5,000 people and tickets are $50, then you recoup most of that money. And that's, and as we build success, you know, that's kind of how you get that gravity well created. As you build success and good stories for people, you attract bigger and better things.
So how many people are going to be out here having business entities besides you? There's going to be a brewer. There's going to be...
I mean, we don't have enough time, Damian. Let's look at this woods.
Okay.
So we've got 80 acres of woods, but this original property was 12. So we took our pigs. We had 55 pigs. We moved them every single week around that woods, 11 or 12 times.
Yep.
So we removed the trees. Now we got a pasture. Now I got a spot I can make a walking trail and people can come out exercise and have cross-country events. But I had a guy out here last week that is going to drill holes and inoculate that entire woods, and we're going to have mother of all morels, mushroom hunting, you know, that first warm spell in April. We're going to have all these different mushrooms, which we can put now into our value streams with Muncie Meats. We can retail it up here at the barn. Everything that here we want to sell the production and the supply and vertically integrate and add value and get value of the waste.
And so your concept is you're just cutting out you're cutting out a lot of stuff, and you're doing the value creation on your own. And what do you see as being the struggle? What's going to be the challenge? First off, time.
The struggle is how you design it. If you design things where they take responsibility and they have an upside, but they take the risk, like I'm not going to pay this guy to inoculate my woods. He's going to take a risk and have enough faith in me that I'm going to create enough value and traffic that it's worth for him to spend, say, $3,000 to inoculate that woods. And then he gets so much of the mushrooms coming off that is the rest of a lifetime. So that's why I say the building momentum is once you create value for other people, people are going to be attracted to it. And the more people we can bundle and complement each other and create a destination, then it's going to be limitless, the amount of people
Have you approached people about this new vision for creating your own ag economy, and they said, you're nuts, this is crazy, no, I'm not going to do it?
It doesn't matter.
I know, but you have, haven't you?
Oh, every day. I mean, everybody.
It says, no, that's just too crazy, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, you know what word I hear all the time, and it used to get under my skin, is why don't you just do this and be done with it? Mm-hmm. And I've always heard since I was young that, oh, Jason, he's really smart, but he has no common sense. So define common sense? Because to me, common sense is that you conform and that you see the system in place, right. You play by the rules, yep. and you have success in that. So when you're swimming outside of that, that's what you're going to get. Yeah,
and that's fine. I mean, you're talking to a guy that I quit corporate America in the job that everybody said, oh, good job, Mark. That's good job. I quit my job to become a Bill Clinton impersonator. So I swim outside of the buoys a little bit myself because, and then after you pull it off after 4 years and you're in movies and you're making money, I'm like, oh, goddamn, must be nice. He just looked like Bill Clinton. All this success came to him. And it's like, well, nobody thought that when I quit and was doing $100 gigs in people's basements, so I get all that. I got no problem.
Right there, you had to get good at your craft, though. Yeah. You were never going to get that big gig unless you did something for free. Yeah. $100 gigs, yeah. You get good.
Yeah, you do humiliating stuff until finally you're good.
That's all we're talking about here is when you're shaving, you're looking in the mirror and you're like,
what do you think?
You're creating a craft. It's a craftsman economy just as much.
There's a lot of moving parts with what you're talking about beyond just creating a comedy act and marketing and the creative aspect of that. You're talking about a creative part, a marketing play, as well as a production play, as well as you're a site developer at this point. I look at this drawing. You're talking about a site developer. You're talking about there's a contractor role. There's a site developer. There's a visionary. What's your strength? Is your strength doing the work or having the idea? I
know when to pull the rope hard, mm-hmm. and I know the right people to do things. And one thing that I did as a landscaper, I think back on those years. And it's starting to kind of make sense. But the way I would approach then is I'd have this baseball talk. You can bat 174. You're going to be stuck in single A. 242. You can go double A, whatever. You can be a star. You can be a stud. I'll pay you as much as you want. Mm-hmm. It just depends on how you show up. And once you create a culture of people taking responsibility, and then also I was talking about earlier, our fundraisers and things like that. At Muncie Meats, we have solely focused on giving back to the community enrichment. Yep. And we give checks to schools and churches and organizations 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 times a week. And when your employees see that that's what you're about, and then you come to work and you don't talk and micromanage them over if they're cutting meat right, you talk about your family and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. You create a culture where people are attracted and they want to work. Mm-hmm. They want to take responsibility. They want to impress you. And this isn't just fluff talk. This is real life. And if you want to get big things done, everyone's got to be on your team and everybody wants you to win.
When you talk about creating your own ag economy, where does this go? I mean, I agree that we can do this value-added stuff. Right now, things are a little screwy because we're talking about whether products are available and we've got inflation and all that. But in general, the American consumer is well off. The American consumer is looking for ways to spend money. They're looking for ways to, certainly the upper half of our customer base. I always tell my ag crowd this. They don't mind spending more for food if it's a story that means something about them. That's what our customers want. So you see the customer coming here and saying, I bring my children and they get to see the lamb eating amongst the barley and doing this and this and this. That's all cool. Is there anything that gets you really excited that you see that I'm not seeing? Because I see a lot of work, but I see a lot of potential with this. Is there anything you see that I'm not seeing?
Well, we've got things we haven't talked about a little bit on how to make this work because it seems like a daunting task, but that's where the collaboration and stuff comes in.
It's a very daunting task. You got 190 acres here that you're going to turn into all this thing, and it's right now it's mostly green field.
Right.
With some livestock facilities and a couple of buildings.
But the savvy farmer, if he wants to keep a door open, he won't go back to the shop and make some widget. He'll just look for a rock, if he's got to hit something. So the thing with collaboration and creating this vertically integration value chain that we've kind of done in the last year is you can't go out and say you're going to do this and this unless you have these problems solved for you to get to that point. So the big thing for here is if we're going to have like the stock cropper brand and create a way for people to add value, then we've got to have a way to process those animals. We got to have shelf space. We've got to have distribution, logistics, and all that stuff. And that is going to allow us to complement and add value to these people. You're not just going to bombard the local hippie farm market every Saturday and it's all going to be swell. I mean, and that's the beautiful thing about social media now and YouTube and we talk about our own economy. Now we're on our own media.
Yeah.
And if we do something different,
although it's somewhat censored, we're not completely in charge. Depending on what you put out there, you're not really in charge. But yes, it's more democratized than it used to be, for sure.
Exactly.
Used to be you needed to get Walter Cronkite or the Channel 8 from Indianapolis to come and cover you, and now you just cover it yourself.
Yeah. So everything is going to be designed with how it's going to play out. I just want to share one little funny thing. We got a golf course out here. Okay. We want this to be a brew house. So we have tons of light pollution already. We got 69. We got this big distribution place. So we're already half lit up. So let's just lit the whole dang thing up and have night golf. Now let's imagine you're out here. We've both had 3 or 4 IPAs. We're feeling pretty good. You say, hey, let's go. We got a hole-in-one contest coming from 11 to midnight. And we've got a camera on every green. And I go out, you get blue balls, I get green balls, he has yellow balls, he has purple balls. 10 people hit balls towards it with surveillance. We have 50 people trying to hit hole in one. Everyone puts $50 in the pot. The winner comes back, he wins $12,000 at the night. It's amazing. Yep. All the greens funnel into the hole. Like somebody's going to do it. You give that guy a video, he goes back to his buddies, I won 12,000.
Yeah, right.
Check this video out.
Right.
Everything is going to be designed for experience. And it's going to be a different experience. And all this space, if we think about all this stuff and how the marketing kind of takes care of itself, instead of paying WMDH, hey, come on out.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So what I'm wondering is yeah. So your concept is, you just described, by the way, we didn't even tell the listener that we got 3 holes out here, or 3 greens, and with multiple different teeing stations for some golf. So there's a small golf course. There's going to be the animals. There's going to be, but it's not just a petting zoo. This is actually, you can come here and see what we're doing, and then also buy our product. And then, you've got all these different thoughts. What about the seasonality of it?
That's fine. Yeah. This is another thing that bothered me when I was a landscape contractor. Well, what do you do in the wintertime?
Yeah, right.
And first off, I would be like, well, I kicked ass every day in the summer.
Yeah.
Second off, I'm going to go out and sell and get better accounts and get remote, push snow, and then I do other stuff. But why do we have to do the same damn thing every day? I mean, and that's another, I talked about overrunning our headlights and building our own scarcity. I want to have blueberries, raspberries, strawberries. Why should I have 10 acres of strawberries and get myself in a position where I have to wholesale it and cheapen myself?
Yep.
Let's put a 16th acre of strawberries and let's make it to where it takes 200 people coming out and picking it by hand, and then they're gone.
Yep.
And that's the thing that we're trying to get to.
Yeah, so you don't ever want to get to where you start to resemble big bulk quantity production, because then you're just back to that thing of, well, I got 5 grain bins of soybeans now, and I'm just going to have to get on and figure out how to hedge it. You're looking at more of create smaller lots of it that you can burn through with the number of people that come through here. And
a tangent here, this is a pretty big tangent, but
you're known for those.
We're in a commodity mindset. Next is labeling, right? We label. Next is transparency. But next is kind of the 5 senses. You got see, smell, touch. But then the next one over that is your imagination and your intellect and stuff like that. And we just want to push those layers and have people out that actually remember their Saturday. And I want people to come out here and I take my kids to the zoo. Once you see so many walruses and stuff, 2 or 3 hours, you want to go home. We don't have to do that for a few months. I want people to think it takes multiple weekends to get through all this stuff.
Yeah, the idea is you want this to be, you don't want this to be a once every 6 years come through it for an afternoon thing. You want this to be want them to be a repeat.
So the great thing about being weird is that the Cincinnati Zoo is just like the Indianapolis Zoo, probably, right?
Yep.
And like the Chicago Zoo.
Yeah.
But if you can make something weird happen and it's got some forethought, then it's unique.
Yeah. Then when they come back, it's a different experience the next time.
Yeah.
I like it. You gonna have booze or just beer?
Eventually, well, I'd like to have homegrown bourbon.
Yeah.
Beer, wine.
His name's Jason Mauck. If you want to keep up with what he does, how do they find you?
I don't answer voicemail, so
He's always putting stuff on social media about his latest trick that he's doing, his latest thing that he's trying.
It's Constant Canopy was the initial brand. Muncie Meats. It's Munsee, munsiemeats.com. Check me out on Twitter, Jason Mauck 1. But I don't know. One thing I really want to plug in that I really get to, but one thing that really drives me, my Uncle David, I brought his cattle in this morning at this place. We took it up and we're going to get that back next week. And we're going to put his product in the local gas station and the local restaurant. We're going to create his own brand, similar to the same exact e-commerce as our fundraisers. We're going to create brands for farmers and we're going to give them more price for the product via packaging. So this is all kind of interlayered. Instead of him wholesaling at $1 a pound, if we can get $4, give him 10 to 15% back a conduit value. That got in place today, and I'm super excited. That's where this is heading, is empowering farmers to have their own brand. And it's all going to work together. Just give me another year. We'll be working on something else, and hopefully some of this stuff gets
I was here a year ago. I'll come back next year, and we'll see how this is rolling. All right, his name is Jason Mauck. Stop bouncing my table. You're making my camera move. His name is Jason Mauck. My name is Damian Mason. Until next time, it's the business of agriculture.
This episode of The Business of Agriculture was brought to you by Land Trust. Landowners, just like you, are increasing profitability by adding recreation to their portfolio of land use. Millions of recreators actively seek wide-open spaces for birdwatching, photography, hunting, fishing, horseback riding, and many other farm and ranch activities. Owners of farm and ranch properties are partnering with recreation access network Land Trust. Land Trust is an online platform connecting recreators with landowners for outdoor experiences on their land to increase profitability. Visit landtrust.com/BOA, as in Business of Agriculture, to learn more. That's landtrust.com/BOA.